burnout happens for us moms when we're like with our kids, but thinking about business, like I should be
Mm.
doing this. Or when we're in the business and we're feeling guilty, like I should be with my kids or I should be doing the laundry.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a
Hi, Rebecca. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you as well. Thanks.
Like I was telling you pre-recording, I really feel like that you will like inspire a lot of moms who are in a similar situation and circumstances. So let's start about that. Like, tell me a little bit about your background.
Great question. So I'll try to keep it brief, but I am a mom to three girls. All have various medical challenges, diagnoses. And so with that, we've been on a journey. I was formerly an architect and a middle school math teacher who then stayed at home for a while to be with my girls while we were uncovering their diagnoses and learning how to support them in the best way we could. And through that journey, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about life and time and productivity and goals and all the things. And the biggest lesson I learned was through my daughter's critical illness. So my oldest is a survivor of acute liver failure, which resulted in multiple organ failure. And that was obviously a very dramatic and traumatic experience, but the blessings we received on the other side of it, I feel led me to where I am today and to have a different take on life than I used to have and how, I just apply what we went through to help me today and help my girls today. And yeah, so that led me to life coaching and just trying to kind of take what difficult circumstances I have in my life, my clients might have in their lives, and learn to react to it in a more intentional way. We'll say intentional is a good word.
Definitely. Did you find that when you were going through that, that you didn't have that support, you didn't have the resource, and you finally figured it out, and you said, "Let me relay this knowledge onto moms that so they don't have to go through what you went through."
Yeah, exactly. Whether deal with illness in your life, which most of us do at some point, or, just regular motherhood, is challenging. And I felt like I was drowning for a long time. And yes, like you said, like I wish I had resources or someone to support me through that to one, normalize it that like we all go through this and it's okay to feel the way we do and have the challenges we do. And that also there are choices out there. Like I felt for a long time that I was limited in my choices and I was kind of creating that for myself and I didn't realize it. So yeah, that's my hope is that I've taken what I've learned and hopefully can kind of shorten that learning for other women or at least support them through it as they discover it for themselves.
And you have three daughters, and I'm just
Mhm.
asking from like experience of a friend who also has a child with special needs. The fact that you were like open to bringing more children, it means that you like saw the blessing in having, a child with special needs, even though some people might say that it's a bit more challenging than having a child without special needs, but I think that's so beautiful and even altruistic.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of you to say. And I also feel like we didn't like ignorance is bliss. So I don't think we had a full picture of what was happening in the beginning. So we have three girls and they were all born within 4 years of each other. So I feel like all of this kind of unraveled or was uncovered over time. And, you know, a lot of people will say, like, I don't know how you do it or did it, and I'm like, I think all of us, we just do what we have to do in the moment. And so I believe that is true for all of us. And yeah, I learned what my kids needed and what their diagnoses were a little bit later. Like it wasn't like at birth, if that makes sense. So in some ways I'm glad because yeah, maybe I would have made different choices. And I'm glad everything worked out the way it has because I have 3 beautiful girls, I wouldn't
Yeah, I
want it
saw
any
the
other way.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so it's like their a diagnosis that started becoming more apparent later, but yeah, everything
mhm,
happens for a reason. They're supposed to be here and they're
yes,
lights in this world, and that's all that matters. And yeah, like every mom that I ask that, like I will ask my sister, "How did you have 3 kids?" My mom has, we're four. I'm like, "How did you have four?" And they all say like, "I don't know." You just do it. You just and yeah, I guess that's like any mom, you just do it, any parent.
yes, so true.
When you got into life coaching, so how did you approach it? Like how did you get your first clients? Did women come to you, or did you do outreach and like go to groups and try to offer your support? How did that happen?
Yeah, great question. So, no, this is not what I envisioned or intentionally sought, but I'm glad it worked out the way it did. It all evolved for me when my daughter was sick. She was in the hospital for 3 months, and then she was at home recovering for over 3 years, and that recovery was pretty intense. She was on 24-hour oxygen, supplemental oxygen, a feeding tube, all different kind of heart monitors, oxygen monitors, which required even like an overnight nurse for over 3 years. We had 2 different nurses that worked with us. And so the point of all that is that, it was pretty intense and all consuming at times. And so my journey started with just wanting a creative outlet for myself, just something that wasn't motherhood or caregiving. And I knew I couldn't like return to my former career at that point, but I still needed my brain to kind of like go do something else for a little bit.
I can totally
Um,
relate. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure a lot of moms can, or parents in general. And so I started just blogging. It was on a totally different topic, and it was just like something I was passionate about. Like I said, just something creative that I could do like in little pockets of time when I was able. And there was no pressure, and it was just kind of a hobby. And as that developed, it was just kind of like one thing led to another, and I started like enjoying like I was a project manager when I was an architect. So I kind of like started combining what I did in former careers to what I was doing. And yeah, you're right. Like some people started reaching out to me, like, how do you do it? What are you doing? How are you staying organized? How are you finding time? Time was the big piece that I
Yes.
focus on now is, so many people, no matter who you are, like we all say we don't have enough time or we're so busy. And so people were just like, how can you have 3 kids with special needs, one recovering, and you're blogging? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I started to just like explore, like, how am I doing this? And like you said, like one thing led to another. People started asking me, and then I realized there was a need, and that evolved over time as well. So I didn't plan for this to happen, but I'm so glad it did.
Wow, I love that, from blogger to mom coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I
Yes.
mainly help moms who are entrepreneurs, so it's kind of like it's me, like I'm helping someone, a former version of myself, if that makes sense.
Yes, you're helping me. I'm in
Right.
that boat.
Right.
And how were you able? Because the only time that I find is not even naps, because I used to be able to get it in during naps, work during naps, but now he wants me to be next to him. If I get up, he wakes up. So that's just the weird stage that we're in right now. But at night, like after he goes to sleep, those are my working hours. I call those my office hours, like after
Yes.
8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yes, I can relate. Yeah, I think it changes over time. Like you said, it depends on what phase or stage your kids are in and like what, like you said, is it naps? Is it bedtime? Now my kids are all school aged and back in school. And so it looks really different today than it did, 4 years ago during the pandemic when they were all home and I was their teacher and, their
Well,
mom
yeah.
and their caregiver. Like my daughter was still recovering during that. And
Yeah.
so one thing that's helped me is just to realize that like, and I know this is pretty common knowledge in motherhood, but like it goes in phases, right? So it's like even my business has gone in phases, and just accepting the fact that like some days or some weeks or some months I'm going to be more productive than others. And So like I've kind of learned to kind of I call it maintenance mode and growth mode. So now I'm at a place where like sometimes I just have to be in maintenance mode, just kind of doing the bare minimum and identifying that for myself like ahead of time to know what is maintenance mode. And then growth mode is like obviously all those things you do to, market and promote and reach out to new people. And I'm not always able to do that, right? Like we go through seasons still, like today where kids are sick over and over, and it's like you feel like you never have a free moment. Um, so some of those strategies have really helped me in just learning to also like say no to some things, because I realize that if I say yes to one thing, like say like to volunteer at the kids' school, which I do enjoy at times, but every time I say yes to that, I'm saying no to time in my business, right? Or, that can apply to like pretty much anything in life. And so that
Yeah,
really
exactly. I was
helps
thinking
me.
that the life, business, children, and that's something that I'm realizing more and more. Especially, I started listening to a podcast of a late shout out to Brittany. I was before I interviewed her, I checked out her podcast, and she was they helped me think about reframe that too. That this is just a period because she mentioned something like through 0 to 2. Don't
Mhm.
expect to, build an empire during that
Yeah.
time. And then that's when I had to learn to give myself more grace because I feel like I'm not progressing at the rate that I want to. And then I said, my son isn't even 2 yet. Like he'll be too soon. So I'm like, I have time, and these are just stages in life. And then I take it to like my background. I'm a dietitian, and that's exactly how I tell like weight loss clients. I'll tell them you're not supposed to lose weight like indefinitely all the
Mhm.
time. You have times where you can lose and then you want to stop, you want to remain in maintenance for a while because it's not healthy to just always be losing weight. So we have periods, so it's like you said, you can this applies to almost any area in life.
Yes. And I also like to think about it, like I think back to my architecture days, like laying the foundation, right? So if you're a mom with young kids, like maybe, like you said, we're not building the empire, we're not building the whole building right at that phase, but like we're laying the foundation. So it's like setting yourself up for success, like, just starting slow, starting simple, like that first layer. Like I keep doing this because I'm picturing that first layer of a brick wall, right? Like what
Right.
can you build for yourself right now so that you're ready and you're solid and you have some systems in place so that when the kids get older or they start going to preschool or daycare or whatever, like then you're like ready to go. You're not starting from scratch. And that can be really helpful too. And I think it just puts our mind at ease too, that like, hey, like I might not be able to like hit the ground running like I want to, but at least like I'm building the foundation, and when there is extra time or whatever space, I'll be ready and I can speed up if I'm ready to at that point.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, setting the foundation. And like
Mhm.
you said, and I like how you said, like, yeah, at least because the time is going to pass anyway. And if you can do a little something right now, then
Mhm.
that's less work that you'll have to do in the future. But by the time you get to that point, like you said, when the children are in daycare or wherever they're being schooled, then you already have the foundation. That's one less task that you have to do. And from there, you can keep moving.
Yes. So that's something I always tell clients, like, don't wait. A lot of times our brain is naturally thinks like, I'll wait till they're in school. I'll wait till they're older. And it's like, certainly you can choose to do that, but if you start today, even if it's just those simple things or those starting blocks, like, yeah, you're in a better position when they are in school or getting, more independent, whatever the case may be.
Right, especially when you have that. Like my husband, he was of the school of thought of just wait. He said, "You're like wait, you're not sleeping, you're staying up late," and I can't. I don't know. It's just I don't know how. I wish I could. But I'm like, no, it happens in me. I have to get it out. I just, yeah. And then it's also like my, I guess, creative outlet. I'm just one of those doers.
Yes, me too. Like after a while, it's just like I have to have a little project, whether it's a hobby or, in this case, starting a business. It just, you know, I feel like it's okay to like want to be, in my opinion, like I like to be a present mom. I'm excited that I get to work from home and be present for them. And also like show them example of like we can be both. We can be mom and we can pursue our own goals or dreams. And that excites me.
Yeah, and imagine like also the role model that you are for your little girls.
Yeah, that's my hope. Definitely.
Yeah.
That anything's possible, right? Whatever they desire, I hope that they at least have that example. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that tip you gave about laying the foundation. Like during these early years, you can at least lay the foundation. Do you have any other similar tips for mompreneurs who are pursuing a business right now or entrepreneurship?
Yes. The other thing that I find to be very helpful is to just simplify. Just simplify what you're doing. And one example of that is like right now in my business, I teach women how to use, digital tools like Asana for task management or Airtable, and all of that is great and I love it. But when I was starting, I didn't want to get caught up in learning all the new things and overcomplicating what I was doing. And so I even just started, and this was in the year of 2020. So it was during the pandemic, 3 kids home, remote learning, and I'm starting a business. And so I just had like a little bullet journal, whatever, just a little notebook. And I would just write 3 things each day, simple things too, like um, pin one pin to Pinterest, write 500 words or, whatever seemed very doable considering everything that was going on in life that I was going to accomplish. And I just simplified it. And then I knew that like if I got those 3 simple things done, I could like feel really good about it, right? That I got them done and I was a mom and I was a teacher and all those other things. And if I wanted or was able to or had the energy, I could always do more, you know? So instead of having the list of 100 things that I wanted to do in my business, I just like
Oh
simplified,
my
like, nope,
gosh.
just going to do these couple things today. And then I'm going to feel like a rock star. If I want to do more, I can. And if I don't, like, I get to rest or do whatever else I want to
I'm laughing because this is exactly what I would tell my clients. And I'm like, why didn't I think about applying this because I would tell them, don't tell yourself that you're gonna run every day. I'm like, you're not gonna run every day. You didn't run, you haven't ran in 20
Right.
years. I would tell them, go out and walk 5 minutes. And if you walk
Mhm.
5 minutes, maybe you'll walk more. But the fact that you put on your shoes and go like, and I would really put it in like bite size. Don't say you're gonna change your whole diet now. Just replace like one soda with a glass of water or diet. Like we would talk work like that, and it's
Yep.
the way you simplify it, make it in like little achievable achievable goals, and not drastic goals like when I'm jotting down, oh my gosh, I have to do this and this and that. But I love that tip.
Awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. I also have clients, I don't know how, but just a higher percentage of teachers. And they find the same thing, like you're saying, like, oh, I tell this to my students or I do this in my classroom or, formerly. It's like, why didn't I apply this to business? It's like, yeah, like
Yeah.
that's a great like mindset to have. Like, what am I already doing in life or my other career that worked? And how can I apply it to what I'm doing today in my business? And
And
yeah,
that's why they
I think.
say coaches need coaches.
Yep. Right. Very true. We all do.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to see like what's right there in your face.
Yes. Yes. And also I think internally, like our intuition, like we know already, and so that's what I encourage clients to do too. Like take what you already know is working in life and apply it to where you are today. And that's a great way to self-coach, I guess.
Yeah. And can you share one of your like favorite client stories? One of your like most fulfilling or your best success stories?
Oh, good question. Hmm. Yeah, the one that's still standing out in my mind is someone who was a teacher, is now working remotely as a teacher and also starting a business. And that's I think like one of the biggest success stories is just her aha moment of realizing like like we talk about data in business, right? Like look at your analytics, look at, your whatever, however you're evaluating depending on what you're doing and use that to inform your decisions, And she was like, oh my gosh, I do that all the time with my students because she's a special education teacher and it's all goal driven what she does. And yeah, I think it's the biggest success stories I see is those aha moments that people have, that like like, I don't have all the answers. As a coach, my intention is to just guide and be alongside people as they discover it for
Right.
themselves. And so that's where I see the most success in students or clients, um, is when they start to uncover that for themselves and they have these, breakthroughs and like aha moments, like, oh my gosh, like I could totally do this the same way I used to, like you were just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I can relate. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We can shift over to like more work-life balance, as they say,
Mm.
even though I don't think there's such thing. But how do you find time for that? Like, how do you have three daughters and a husband and this business? Do you have set also like do you systemize and simplify? Tell us a little bit how you manage that.
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. So, when I think about work-life balance, I used to get hung up on that, meaning like stuck. I was like, well, and it's makes sense because I'm a math teacher and an architect. So everything's very literal in my brain. Like I'm like 50%, 50%. To be balanced, it's got to be the same. And that used to keep me stuck because I'm like, well, it's never the same. Like I always feel like something's like out of whack. And so it used to slow me down. And what I realized is that who says it has to be equal, right? Who says it has to be 50-50? And so I've used that to my benefit to be like, okay, well, literally now, like I think about my year, and even my year looks different. Like we have different phases, right? Different seasons. Like sometimes the kids are home for the summer and sometimes they're in school. And so I create intentional imbalance, like on purpose, right?
I
So I'm
like
not
that
fighting
intentional imbalance.
I'm not fighting to be totally like work is 50%, life is, no. Um, so like when the kids are in school, like I'm able to devote more to my business, right? And when they're home for the summer, I'm devoting more to them. And I think just the shift in my own brain is what was like super helpful because I'm not like thinking, oh, it's summer, I'm so behind, I'm not doing as much, for my business, or I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And that was just like making me do less, that was just creating the result of me doing less because I was
Right.
telling myself that. So now I just go into those phases of life intentionally thinking, okay, my kids are going to be the priority in this phase of the year or the season of the year. And that allows me to just be very intentional about what I'm choosing to do with them and what I'm choosing to do in my business. And like I said, I just create that intentional imbalance. And
What about your spouse, with your husband? Are you guys able to find quality time with three kids and him working and you working?
yeah, it's definitely tricky. Um, that's a good question about making time with my spouse. It's definitely tricky. There were phases where when my daughter was sick that we weren't spending a lot of quality time together because we felt like we were just in survival mode. And so
Yeah.
something that has helped me is, again, I keep going back to the word intentional, but sometimes we're just on autopilot, all of us humans, right? We're just kind of like reacting to things that are happening in life, whether they're big or small, and we're just like not sitting down and thinking like, okay, like what do I actually want to be doing with my time? And in this case, with my spouse. And I realized that while we had a good relationship and we weathered the storm of my daughter's illness, like we weren't making time for joy and going out and like doing the fun things. So I use a planning system in my business called the 12-week year, which is based on a book
Yeah, I'm
called the 12-week
familiar.
year. And so I've adapted it to use like, for me, it's very flexible. Like they have a very like strategic approach, which is great. But for me, I needed flexibility. But putting that aside, what I use the 12-week year for is not only in my business, but when I want to become intentional about other things in life, in this case, my relationship with my husband, I made a goal for the 12 weeks that like we're going to go on date night at least once a month for those next, 3 months, just to try to reignite that pattern or that habit for us where it was like a priority. And so that's what I use. Like I just had to get that intentional. I know it might sound silly, like you feel like it should come naturally, but when you have three kids, and a pandemic and all these other things going
I
on,
can
like it's really
imagine.
easy. for it to just like kind of fall to the bottom of the list. So this was my way of putting it back up at the top. And yeah, and then that just helped like make that new habit for ourselves to keep it a priority.
Yeah, that's something that we're working on to keep it, make it a habit. Even though we also set the date night once a month, and then we realized like a few months passed, and we're like, oh wait, we didn't have that date night we talked about. Like we did it twice, and then then life got busy. But just like you said, I feel like, of course, we're like in the early stages of parenting. Like our son
Mhm.
is almost 2. So it's so different. Marriage before kids and marriage after you have children. And it's like you said, you have to be so intentional and not be an autopilot. And so yeah, but it's good to hear like, yeah, it's normal. There are ebbs and flows and just try to be intentional and make it a priority.
Yes, exactly.
And what about yourself? I'm big on mom wellness, even though that's another challenge and that looks different for every woman. So, what do you do for your self care, for your wellness?
Yeah, that's really important, like you said, and something I wasn't doing for myself for a while because I felt like other things were more important, right? Especially in light of my daughter's illness. It always felt like something else was more important.
Right.
And so for a long time, I used for myself the analogy of like, put your oxygen mask on first, like they say in the airplanes, right? Like, and that worked for me for a while. So I was like, okay, I have to do some things for myself so that I can like help other people. And that was great for a while. Um, but then I felt like I wanted to be more abundant, like, and realize that the more I took care of myself, whatever that looks like for each of us, the more I could do and be present for others. So there was a quote that someone shared with me called, or it went like this: tend to your garden first, so that you have more harvest to share with others. And that just really stuck with me because I was like, wow, like that feels beautiful where when I'm tending to my own garden or my own self first, like I actually have more to share with others. And that felt like I didn't feel the mom guilt about it or anything. And from there, I was just able to like test and explore like what worked for me. And I realized that I used to think that rest or fun or hobbies came after everything else in the day, right? After I helped the kids and after I did my business and after I cleaned the house and all the other things. But you can probably relate, like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's hard to like want to do anything but fall into bed and go to sleep. And so I kind of flipped it where now I do more of that in the morning before any of the other stuff. And I just realize I come more energized, happier, um, all the things when I approach it that way.
Wow, I like that. You reversed it. And then you can,
Mhm.
once you've tended to your garden, then you have the world is your oyster. You have
Yeah.
flowers to give away.
Yes, and
Wow,
I
I like
felt
that.
less resentful. Like for a while, I was just like, like I said, like in the deep like part of my daughter's recovery, it just felt I felt resentful at time. Like, well, what about me and my life and what I wanted? Like I'm
Yeah.
being vulnerable, admitting that, but like that's how I felt at
But
time.
I'm sure I think every mom goes through
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So this allowed me to realize that like I could do both, right? I could take care of myself and my family in like a healthy, productive way that didn't feel selfish, that, still felt abundant. And yeah, so that's what worked for me.
Wow, beautiful. I can relate to that. That's that point where I had like this resentment is when I said, okay, pump the brakes. You have to do something for yourself.
Mhm.
And that's when I started to be more intentional about self-care, which I'm still, working on because my son is really young and my husband works, I have only like, the weekends and even the option
Yes.
of like waking up early, I don't even have that yet because he wakes up, he wakes me
Yes.
up. So, but I know it's just like you said, it's just a phase. But yeah, I like try to take walks and, do little things that really do, fill me up.
Yeah.
Considering the stage in life that we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I have found really helpful is my current coach has this definition of rest that she shared. Um, how does she phrase it? She says, rest is when we don't resist what we're doing in the present moment. So sometimes I've learned that burnout happens for us moms when we're like with our kids, but thinking about business, like I should be
Mm.
doing this. Or when we're in the business and we're feeling guilty, like I should be with my kids or I should be doing the laundry or whatever. And so sometimes we can take care of ourselves when we stop thinking those thoughts, right? Like when we're just present in our moment, whatever we're doing, and we're just not thinking all the shoulds and, you know,
But how do
making
you get out of that?
ourselves feel
That's
guilty.
something that I'm like, uh, I want to be more. I was just saying that last week. I was in like this, I have a little, it's supposed to be like, a peer coaching, but we could end up like a therapy session.
Yeah.
But I was saying that also that I'm battling become like, I want to be more present. And that like, I feel like when I'm with my son, then I'm thinking, oh man, I have to reply to that email and I need to do this. And then when I'm working on my business, then I'm thinking about my son. How do you have any tips or exercises to be more mindful, how to get in the moment?
Yeah. So a couple of things have helped me and helped my clients. One is just like providing a transition period between like when you're, in mom mode versus business mode. Like my mornings are chaotic, 3 kids, they go to 3 different schools this year. So it's like
Mm,
schedules are all wonky. And by the time they are in school, I'm just like, I feel already exhausted, right? And so I do things like go on a walk, if you have the time to do that, or even like a 1 minute guided meditation can help me. Just like reset and just whatever you want to do to reset, I think is the key
a
to just be like,
reset.
okay, here I am. Now I'm in business mode. Like, to kind of just like release the stress and overwhelm or whatever is happening and like just again that word intentional, be intentional about, okay, right now there might be other worries, this is me talking to myself every day, right? I might have other worries or other things going on in family life, but I almost like picture like just putting them outside the door. Like we're gonna come back to that in a little bit. And so, yeah, I just try to reset myself in all those ways: meditation, reading, walking, whatever feels supportive to each person, right?
I like that. Some type of implement some type of cue to yourself that
Mhm.
this is the that we're in transition from one phase to the next phase, mom mode, business mode. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
How do you envision the future of your business? Will you plan on scaling it at some point? You see you continuing this work with business? You want to go back to blogging?
I do see scaling, but not in a way like a way that feels support like manageable, right? Like I
Mm,
still envision myself being a small business, whether I have a couple of team members. I have one right now, but just I want to work less. Like that's my goal while still doing meaningful work so that I can be present in other areas of my life. So that's kind of where I see this going. And just being patient with myself that again, I'm still laying the foundation, essentially getting there.
I love that. And I feel like that's the goal of a lot of mompreneurs that we're doing this so that we do have the financial freedom to work less and be present. And that's what I'm telling myself, even though I'm gonna adopt this Q tip, but I'm like, I'm doing this so that I can spend more time with my son, like so I can continue. Now I spend all my time with him, but I want to continue, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I do. I totally know what you mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rebekah. This was a lovely conversation. And tell us, where can we find you and connect with you?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. You can connect with me on Instagram at the Rebekah Lara. And I also have a Facebook group for thriving mamas who want to calm the chaos and simplify life and business. So come hang out with us there.
Oh, I'll be joining. Thank you
I would
so
love
much
that.
for joining. I'll link your website below. And that's it. I hope we can talk again in the future.
I would love that. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to Maternity Leave. I hope you found value in this episode. Your support means the world. By subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing this episode with another mom entrepreneur, you'll help it grow and reach more incredible guests who can share their insights and guidance. Until next time, take care, love on your loved ones, and make it happen. You got this.
And this a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it, get it. And this a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it.